So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. iPhone 17 Pro versus iPhone 17 Pro Max 2 months later. Now, these phones have been out for a couple of months, but now that their hype has died down for the early adopter phase, we're headed into the holiday seasons. Some people might want to be getting these for gifts this holiday season. And the thing is that the stock is now becoming a little bit more plentiful. So, there's plenty of stock in a lot of areas. Yes, some configurations, some colors might be a little bit more difficult to find. But now that we got 2 months under the belt, let's go ahead and talk about which one is going to be the better decision so you don't make the wrong decision. So let's talk about the design comparison. Now, both of them do kind of have the same exact design. The camera plateaus up at the top. I do have the cosmic orange on the right and the classic silver on the left. Personally, I like the orange for standing out. But for a long-term choice, you might want to go with silver if you want to match many different cases and stuff of that sort. Although, a green case does look good with this phone, as does a black case. And orange goes good as well if you want something a little bit more zingy. I do want to see Apple bring more standout colors to the iPhone Pro line like they did with the Cosmic Orange besides just orange. But this one really has stood out. Now, from the side, you'll see they both have the camera control, the power button in the same location. Up at the top, that 5G antenna. And then over here on the right side, you do have the action button, volume rockers, antenna lines on the sides there. And at the bottom, you'll see USB-Cs, and we do have ourselves the microphone hose as well as the speaker grills down there. Now the thing is with the build and the kind of like the feel of both of these phones, size really does matter. These phones both do have smoother edges, so right here at the corners they feel nicer in the hand, but the iPhone 17 Pro Max is still that heavier, thicker, big smartphone that you come to expect from this product. Now, it's not the biggest phone I've ever seen, but it's definitely no light boy whatsoever. If you want a light phone, I do recommend take a look at the iPhone Air. But the iPhone 17 Pro, definitely, while it is lighter, it still feels a little bit hefty and a little bit thick. So it's to me, it's not even sleeker than the iPhone 16 Pro. It's a little bit thicker and heavier than that. So do keep that in mind. However, if you do want a true power user phone, but you want it in a smaller package, it's going to be the 17 Pro in this design comparison. They do both have soft aluminum though. You can see right here, I dropped this one time. Look, there's already a dent right there on the iPhone 17 Pro Max. So, because it slipped out of my hand, the 17 Pro Max can dents, as can the iPhone 17 Pro. Not like dent, like huge, like bend in half type things. I'm just talking about little dents on the aluminum if you hit it in the wrong corner. So do keep that in mind. These do probably need a case if you're a little bit more clumsy with your device. At the end of the day though, they both look pretty great. But 2 months later, I have to say that holding the iPhone 17 Pro Max is actually a little bit more comfortable than some previous Maxes due to the shape. So if you're okay with the size, I think the other areas might lead me to recommend the 17 Pro Max, including the price points. Because this year, the iPhone 17 Pro actually you have to pay a little bit more because they got rid of the 128 gig. So it's not quite as good value for money as it was before, because you have to go up $100, which puts it closer in price to the 17 Pro Max. And we know some of the benefits there. So let's take a look at the display differences now. So when it comes to the displays, we are looking at a 6.3 inch, and Apple basically kept this thing the same as last year, but they did increase the brightness. So it is brighter outdoors, but it has pretty thin bezels, and it's 1959. So it looks absolutely excellent. No matter what you're doing on here, you're going to really enjoy the display quality. However, the dynamic island does stand out a little bit more as the display is smaller, so your eye tends to go to it more. At the end of the day though, this phone to me is more of the power user portable device. This display also does have a smooth ProMotion panel on here, so you're going to be pretty happy with that. However, I do find that you have to scroll a little bit more just because, the display is a little bit smaller. You could reduce the text to make that a little bit less. But if you want something that is pretty good with the anti-reflections, I do have screen protectors on here, but they do have built-in anti-reflective properties. They're both going to be pretty good. The real improvement though is the brightness outdoors for both 17 Pro and Pro Max. 2 months later though, I do have to state that if you do want yourself a display that can basically do it all, you're going to want to have the iPhone 17 Pro Max in terms of having a much larger panel to read on, a much larger media consumption experience. The deal is how often do you find yourself wanting to go ahead and use this display to watch videos, content, and maybe just get all your work done, on the go once in a while if you don't have your computer or your laptop with you. I do recommend this display. Also, if you are playing any type of games or anything like that, of course, the larger battery, the bigger display is going to lead to a better experience. So a couple months later, I find myself, understanding the trade-off between the size is that we have to deal with a little bit of weight to get that long battery, but also that great media experience. Now, if you want a big display, but you don't want a heavy display, you can also get a great size with the 6.5-inch Air. However, there are some sacrifices to be made. On the 17 Pro, though, I find this phone to be like a mini version of the 17 Pro Max. Gets the job done in the same exact way, but I find myself scrolling just a little bit more. In addition to that, I find myself craving to use my iPad a little bit more than I would if I'm using the bigger 17 Pro Max. So if you want a phone that just kind of feels like a phone in your pocket and it's a beast, go with the 17 Pro's display, go with that size. If you want a phone that you might not even need to grab your iPad because it's so big most of the time, go with the 17 Pro Max. And if you find you want things larger on display, video, you want to watch a lot of video, you want long battery backup, go with the iPhone 17 Pro Max. And in that display, there's just really no comparison. Both of them do hit the same brightness levels and pixels per inch though. Now, if we take a look at the performance, they do have the same exact performance here. Both of them are the same CPU. They're clocked at the same gigahertz, same gigabytes of RAM. There's only one area where the 17 Pro Max might win, and it's in extreme circumstances. The phone would probably handle extreme sustained workloads a little bit better. And what I mean by that is you're rendering out a long video, you're transferring massive 4K files, or you're doing something like that, and the phone is really getting pushed. It would take to the absolute brink though to have anybody even notice it. It's mostly just due to a bigger space for the heat to sustain that performance. Both of them do have really good thermals, but the 17 Pro Max, if you push it to an extreme condition, you might have a slight improvement, but 99% of users, almost nobody will ever notice any difference. Max performance is going to be about the same for almost every single person out there. So performance wise, there's no difference. Don't make a decision based on performance alone between these two products. So when it comes to cameras, both of these, I'm glad to report, do have triple 48 megapixel cameras, which is pretty awesome that they all now line up. They remind me a lot of the iPhone 13 Pro and Pro Max. There's no real advantage to either when it comes to the actual quality produced. Both of them do have 0.5x, 8x zoom. You can see right here, you can go 40x on the farthest reach, which is pretty solid for these phones. But the big upgrade is the front-facing cameras, which are substantially improved over the past. Now, if we go ahead and back it out, the center stage camera is extremely wide, and it's been extremely useful in multiple situations already. So I definitely recommend you upgrade to either of these if you want a better pro experience. But in the area of camera, the area I want to talk about is more an experiential thing. For the iPhone 17 Pro Max, I find this to be the better camera if you are going to be taking a ton of photos and videos because of its size. The framing is a bit larger, so framing photos, you just have more space to work with here. And so, like I say, when you are framing the photo, there's a little bit more space. I feel like the grip is a little bit better for going like this, taking a shot. It's mostly an experiential thing I would make my decision on. I do think when you're trying to like do a group photo or something, it's easier to drop the 17 Pro Max just because it's a bit larger. But for tripod content creators, bringing your footage over to video editor applications, I do find picking the 17 Pro Max to be the better option. Not only great thermals, but also the device just is going to have more space to edit and stuff like that. Now, the 17 Pro, though, this is the phone to pick for portable camera users. Think the bigger camera rig, like you would have a bigger camera and then you have a point and shoot. That's kind of the comparison I'm trying to make from an experience here. The 17 Pro is just the one I love for, being out, moving quick, taking a photo, taking videos. And you can also do all the same stuff, framing, pretty good here as well. It's big enough, but to me, this is just the point and shoot, the on the move camera beast right here. This one's the set it up. Let's do the pro stuff. Let's get really pro with it. That's this one right here, the iPhone 17 Pro Max. So that's how I would choose them, more on how you plan to use the camera rather than the actual megapixels and the specs, because the specs are the same. It's really about how you want to use it. Do you want a portable camera, or do you want, a camera that's also portable, but you want it to be, you might want to use it for other things as well, including using it on a tripod or just having a bigger area to view your videos, edit your videos, photos as well. and just see them in a bigger format on the larger screen. So that's kind of how I would make my decision on the camera here. All right, guys. So when it comes to the battery perspective, here's the deal. You would obviously expect the 17 Pro Max to be the better option, and you would be right. It's about a 1.5 to 2 hour boost over the iPhone 17 Pro for day-to-day use. However, the 17 Pro is also extremely long battery life for this size. This phone can easily last a day and a quarter. This one is a day and a half. So that's how I look at it. And this is talking about heavier use. Medium users, this is a 2 to 2.5 on the iPhone 17 Pro Max. This is probably a day and 3/4. So we're talking about like a whole day, and then probably to about 6 or 7 p.m. on the next day for this phone if you're a medium to lighter user. So both of them are very strong. They don't charge the fastest out there, but they do charge faster than some previous editions. I really would just pick and go and sacrifice for the bigger size if you plan to use this device for heavier usage, including things like gaming, but also, you know you're going to be on your phone heavy beast mode. Like, just get the Max. You got to deal with the size because you're going to have a much better battery experience here just because of that size. However, if you're still a heavy user, but you want your portability, you're not willing to sacrifice, I don't think you're going to be disappointed with the 17 Pro. But you might be thinking in your mind, like, I wish I had just a little bit more battery. If you're going to be thinking that, just get the Max. There's just no other way to talk about it. Also, keep in mind, if you plan to keep your phone 5+ years or a super long time, which a lot of people do at these price points, the 17 Pro Max's actual cell will degrade a little bit slower just due to having larger capacity. So it'll stay higher. Stay higher capacity before you have to replace it on the Max before the 17 Pro, just because of the larger physical size. Now, from a software experience, both of them do rock iOS 26.1 right here. The liquid glass does take some getting used to, but I like the clear icons. It kind of matches up nice if you put the clear icons as well on the iPad, and it kind of goes well with the Apple Watch. Everything is still cohesive within Apple's ecosystem. The visual updates here are definitely noticeable, but at the core, iOS still feels basically the same right here. One of the things I really enjoy about the 17 Pro is I just think it feels a little bit better iOS on the smaller product, just because I feel like it was designed for one-hand mobile use. We don't really have a lot of split screen, a lot of extra productivity features going on that kind of is reserved for iPadOS. So I do think iOS is more enjoyable to use on the smaller Pro. So if you want really, really great software experience and you want it portable, I think it's better on the iPhone 17 Pro. You can still get the same experience here on the Max, but I always find myself wanting more on the bigger device simply because I want to do more multitasking and iPadOS like features for the bigger device. It doesn't even have a basic split screen, so it just feels like I'm just blowing up what I can already get on a smaller phone. At the end of the day, though, applications larger than life on here are definitely going to be a great experience, but same software, liquid glass, all of them get updates at the same time, very, very consistent with that. And both of them have extremely long software support, somewhere to the tune of 6 or 7 years. So very, very good on both of them when it comes to that experience. They are a little bit slower with the animations. Things are trying to go a little bit more visually pleasing. So if you want snappy, fast, quick animations, this is probably not your phones right here. But if you want that buttery smooth and just like great looking experience when it comes to like the way they launch, like look at this, when we go into Face ID and we launch into the phone itself, look how smooth this looks right here. Like that looks really nice. So that's one of the areas where the OS is still pretty strong. Core applications still updated very good, and most of the apps tend to run well. They do introduce bugs here and there and certain dot releases, but you got to keep them updated. Overall, though, I would choose the 17 Pro if you want a phone that feels portable and smooth. I would choose the 17 Pro Max if you want to make the apps feel a little bit larger than life, but I would actually not even choose either of these if you were looking for something like multitasking or split screen. So price versus value. Is the extra cost coming from the 17 Pro to the 17 Pro Max? Which one to buy? Like, are you going to go with the 17 Pro Max? Is the cost actually worth it? I find that if you value a larger screen and longer battery, the 17 Pro Max is worth it. It's the luxury choice of these two, but the 17 Pro is the better value for people who want to save money, but they also don't want to sacrifice pro level experience. Or they don't want to sacrifice anything. They don't want to go to 17 and make a few sacrifices. They don't want to go to the Air and sacrifice battery and camera compared to the Pro. So, and although that one is still pretty good, the Air, The Pro does offer a little bit more. It is a little bit more boring, a little bit more what we're used to. It doesn't feel super new, but it definitely has a different two-tone design on the rear and gives us pretty much all we're asking for. So who should upgrade? I think the target audience for the Pro and Pro Max are definitely a bit different. If you are anyone craving powerful performance, a long battery life, improved selfie cameras, and excellent thermals, you are the same customer on both of these phones. But there's a big difference between the two people between this. It's mostly down to the person who values a little bit more bang for the buck. They're probably going to want to go with the iPhone 17 Pro. And the Pro Max is the user who values the luxury option, the option that has everything, the best of the best that Apple can throw at a phone currently. Just pick the Max. Even if you know that size might be a little bit, you could still get used to it after about a week or so. You'll probably be used to it, and you'll probably be like happy you got this long battery life. So that's going to wrap it up here for me after a couple of months. Those are my thoughts on these two going into the holiday season. If I only had to choose one, me personally with my bigger hand, I'm probably going with the 17 Pro Max. I did come from a 16 Pro recently. I love that device. And this size option is still great, but this one is a little bit thicker and heavier than the 16 Pro. But if you like a smaller format, this is also a beast. And I love to recommend that one as well. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great Thanksgiving, and I'll catch you on the next one. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.